this is Cathie Joy Young. I'm at Guardino Gallery, here to show you some of my work and just give you an idea of what I do. And if you can't come down and see it, it is up for another week. You can look at this. You can also go online and see the work. I'm showing alongside Kim Merton, her ceramics. I would also like you to stay safe, obviously, in this time. Wear your masks. If you are supporting the protest, please practice physical distancing. We need your voices, so stay safe and stay healthy. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the work. So this work, I usually start out with washes, and then from there I start sort of breaking up the space of the panels. Let's go over here and I'll show the panels. So this is like a very early start where I just put washes down. This is a kind of a translucent azo yellow, I think. And what I'll do is I'll just repeat this process over and over again. I might end up putting a lot of different colors over it, and eventually just once the surface looks deep enough and interesting, then I'll start work. Here's an example of some little ones that are pretty much ready to be worked. What I like to do is start by getting in there and seeing something like an interesting shape, and then I'll start painting. These are the brushes I use. They're pretty small. So these are smaller paintings that I first started doing this all over technique with. So you can kind of see how it is in the starting phase, or not the starting phases, but what kind of got me going in this direction was working on the smaller pieces. And then I started to, try and get bigger with these. This is an earlier piece. This whole body of work spans about 3 years. Keep in mind that I didn't have access to my studio for a while because we moved and I had to remodel a brand new space for a studio. But so you've got wide areas of just washes and space, and you can see how even when I lay down the glazes, some of the water, I'll wipe it off and it picks out shapes and patterns. So then in order to create space between things, I would sometimes just break the space up. I might like how the washes looked underneath and I didn't want to completely lose them. So this is one of the earlier pieces. It's not as broken down. Another early piece, this way, is this one here. You kind of see the same sort of thing as in the other. So it's kind of a deduction process where this is the original wash, and so is this up here. And then I would go in with another color and just break it down and create my shapes that way. And this one's called Myth and Mechanism. And then as we go on, I started to kind of break things up more, get smaller shapes, smaller patterns. And I'm always finding figures and animals in the work. And this one kind of resembles illuminated manuscript. You know that along the sides of the illuminated manuscripts, they'll have these little figures and whatnot. And then moving on to this one. So the more colors you introduce, the longer the process is going to take, obviously. And this one is, I introduced some more colors into this one. This one here is probably one of the most recent ones. It might be the second to the last one I completed, so that was done within the last few months. This one's called Balancing Worth. And again, this one has quite a few colors in it, so they take quite a bit longer. And then I'll take you over to the biggest piece. This one is called Hanging Gardens of Babylon. And I started this a few years ago, and it's gone through a lot of changes. It was primarily shape, the big shapes, big figures, some structure, but the structure was much looser. And then I went back in, some things got blotted out and changed, and then I went back in and started to really detail it, probably sometime within the last year when I was working towards the show, and I thought that this was a good one that I could sort of practice this technique on working larger. The problem with the larger pieces is it's hard to get close enough to them in certain positions to get super intricate and detailed. So I have to figure out a way to do that comfortably. And it may be that I just do this particular type of style where only parts of it are as highly detailed. Okay, let's go over and look at this one. This one is called Virus. And what I did here was I just started doing what I do, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna keep it as abstract as possible, not really look for figures, just see what happens. And then these little gremlin-y, creepy figures started to appear. And I was working on it, I believe January, February, so I called it Virus for obvious reasons. This one was maybe a kind of a breakthrough, because I think this is the first one I did where every single tiny section of it is done in this way where I break the surface down into tiny shapes. And negative space is even crowded out with these tiny shapes and patterns. And when I was about a quarter of the way into it, I just thought, oh my God, this is gonna take forever. And it did, it took a really long time. But I was very pleased that I could get it to sort of compositionally make sense and still keep to the breaking down the surface and patterning. This one is, again, one of the earlier ones, Horology and Free Will. And this one I listen to podcasts when I work. I love true crime, so those are the podcasts I listen to the most. But this one I listened to Shit Town, which is an incredible story. It's a true story and it's incredible. And the subject of the film or the podcast is a man who was a horologist, the study of clocks and timepieces, and he also had an incredible rose maze. So I don't know, I just felt clock energy in this one, and sort of like the workings of the clock and the idea of free will, and this person here who's sort of about to throw something disruptive. So, glasses are fogging up. As to the content of the work, I'm just working, so I'm sort of trying to figure out the logic of the piece as I go along. And my main concerns are with the color and the composition and the shapes. And eventually I start to sort of see a little bit of a story happening. I'm really interested in history, genealogy, archaeology, gardening, and I think that all kind of comes through. I think about the past a lot more than I do the present or the future. So this one, Voyage, I've been thinking a lot over the last couple of years about immigrants and like people who came to the United States and Canada and how they got here and their history. So this, to me, has a boat feel and a travel feel. This guy with sort of oars. This guy sort of looks like a fisherman. And then I think about these little tiny spaces that these people were crammed into when they were coming over. Let's see. Oh, okay. So this show I named Notre Dame is Burning. And this piece is also called Notre Dame is Burning. So, you know, it's been a really tumultuous 4 years. And, you know, when I was working on this, I just had that feeling that I had when I saw Notre Dame burning. I was lucky enough to see it a few weeks before it burned in real life. And then when I came home, I saw it in real time, in flames. And it just makes me think of how we think that something's going to last forever, and then it's gone, or almost gone. And just how tenuous things are. And that sort of represents to me what's been going on over the last 4 years. Things have been breaking down and changing, and right now, hopefully for the good.